there's a bit of noise in the studio and there's good reason for that. Welcome to a show that's been around for 35 years by name, but it's been resurrected in 2024. This is On The Ball, and as you can hear, we are live. Yes, On The Ball is back. It's a program, if you're old enough to remember, that's been around since the late 80s, hosted by the late and great Les Murray and Johnny Warren. You might remember Kyle Patterson and Andrew Pascalides had a lot to do with the program back then. My name is Mike Tomalaris. I had a little bit to do with the original On The Ball. But this is On The Ball, circa 2024, and you are part of it. Over the next 60 minutes, we'll be talking about a game that we love. We love it passionately. It runs through our veins. Whether it be here at home or internationally, we will cover some vital topics tonight. We've also got a live studio audience. Can you guess? Can you hear them? And my co-host, Samantha Yerman, is amongst the crowd there. Sam, you've got a big job to do tonight.
Yeah, look, I'm in a neutral Italy kit tonight, but I've got my Roma and AC Milan kits because we've got the fan bases here and they're bringing the energy, aren't you guys?
And they're here because there's a big game coming up on May 31 between Roma and AC Milan. We'll talk about that in just a moment. I'd like to introduce the panel that is with us tonight. First up, a man who's no stranger to big-name footballers, internationals. He's brought them to Australia, Lou Sticker. Lou, welcome to the program. I cannot believe it's been 10 years since you brought out Alessandro Del Piero and Shinji Ono.
Seems like yesterday. They were great times. Hopefully we'll live them again very soon.
Well, I hope so, because they brought the crowds to the A-League, which was wonderful. Next up, a lady who's been around a long, long time, and I'm not being disrespectful, she's a legend of the game. Ladies and gentlemen, Heather Garriock. Heather has had 130 caps to her name. She's part of the FFA board. And Heather, I've got to say, whenever I talk to people about the game, all they want to hear about is the Matildas. How good is it?
Absolutely. The Matildas are the number one brand in Australia, and as a former Matilda and all the Matildas that come before me, we're just so proud that the brand is today and how the girls are playing at the moment.
Come a long, long way, and of course the Matildas are off to Paris. We'll talk about that as well for the Olympics. Thirdly, we've got a man who mixes business with pleasure, I assume, and business with football, Paul Nicolau. Paul, business and football, is it a little bit like mixing water and oil? Difficult?
Well, business loves football and football loves business, and anything we can do to ensure that football remains number one in this country, we're right behind it. We saw what happened and how successful the Women's World Cup was last year, and business really saw that and are really keen to get behind football.
Absolutely. Well, you're the boss of the Sydney Business Chamber, and it's great to have you along. Well, we're going international tonight as well, and we have a man in Naples, Italy, where they make the best pizza. I can account for that. Ladies and gentlemen, Angelo Picca. A very good morning to you, Angelo, looking resplendent there, a little bit like James Bond. But tell us, what's the scene like there? What's the scene like over there in Italy right now?
Well, it's absolutely fantastic. You know, we're drawing to the end of the season, and of course we've got Roma participating in the Europa Liga. They're in the semi-finals up against Bayer Leverkusen, of course, a very tough opposition that they won the Bundesliga with 4 games remaining. And then we've got Atlanta also on the other draw, participating in the Europa Liga. Unfortunately, no one in the Champions League, but the season is drawing to an end, and there's great enthusiasm here in Italy.
We'll come back to you very shortly, Angelo. That's Angelo from Naples in Italy. It sounds like the Italian game is alive and kicking. Well, the big news is that the Network 7 will be showing coverage of the big game between Roma and AC Milan. It's on May 31. The game is being played not in Italy, but in Australia. Make your way to Optus Stadium in Perth on May 31. Kickoff is at 7 p.m. local time. And we're so happy and grateful that Network 7 has taken the coverage. The two big teams of Italy, the Serie A, are coming to our shores. Now, some people might be asking, how can teams that are filled with players from the European or representing the teams or nations from the European Football Championships a couple of weeks later, how can they afford to spend some time in Australia halfway around the world? Well, one man who can answer that question is Lou Sticker, because he's the man responsible for bringing the two teams out. Lou, that's the question everybody is asking. Will the big name players, the players that we expect or that we do see on our television sets from far and wide, will they be in Perth?
The simple answer is both clubs have been contracted to bring their full squads, barring injuries. And when I say contracted, it's legal documents, so there is an obligation for them to perform. But very, very important to note is that national team players go into UEFA nations that participate in the championships. They start their camps, their respective camps, on the 2nd of June. Our game is on the 31st of May. The clubs are coming out with their own charter flights. They fly out after midnight on the Friday night. They land back in their respective cities of Roma and Milano at about 1 p.m. on the Saturday, the 1st, so they get back home 24 hours before they go into camp. So the answer is yes, full teams.
I'll throw the questions to the floor. If you've got questions to ask Lou about some of the players from both sides that you'd like to see here, anyone would like to put their hand up? Samantha, come to the gentleman here who's got a question for Lou.
Camilla?
Yeah.
Camilla.
Hi, Lou.
Camilla.
Hi, Camilla.
As Roma fans, we're really lucky this year because we had Francesco Totti come 2 weeks ago. He was in Melbourne and Sydney, and now we're going to have the game in Perth. Just from a fan standpoint, how do we get under the noses of you promoters and stuff to get a little bit extra close and personal with these players?
It's not easy to get close and personal, but having said that, fans in Australia get it so much easier than fans in their home countries. I get friends texting me, how did you get a photo with Francesco Totti? And I was a customer on the day. I had nothing to do with that tour. Because over there, footballers, professional sports people, whether it's Formula One, whether it's tennis, the public don't get up and close and personal like we do. Our players come, these foreign teams that come here, those players are able to walk down the street. They don't have the security concerns that they have in Europe or in other parts of the world. That's why they love coming to Australia, because it's relaxed. The fans can get to them. We have an open training session for both clubs on the Thursday before the game, and we can't wait to get as many people in there as possible. And the players love it because it's relaxed. So we'd love to do more, but it's not that easy. The other thing is too that these players are incredibly valuable commodities. They've got club responsibilities, they've got commercial responsibilities. So to get them here to Perth in Western Australia for 4 days, as we have on this particular upcoming tour, is no mean feat. I can't stress to you how easy it is compared to most of the other fans around the world.
Can I ask Paul Nicolau? Paul, is that good business to keep the fans away from the two teams? I mean, these people here, the fans, they idolise these players, but they can't get near them.
Yeah, it's a problem, but it's reality. And I think it's important that we should really appreciate the fact that we've got them coming to Australia. Isn't it fantastic? The euphoria that the Women's World Cup, the euphoria that this game will play for Sydney and for the rest of the country will be fantastic.
Angela, I'll bring you in. Is it a cultural difference? Lou said that in Australia we're a bit more relaxed. In Italy it's a different situation. Is it purely a cultural difference?
Well, definitely, because in Italy, they're almost like rock star status, and it's very, very difficult to get to them. It's almost like a superstar that's entertaining, like the Rolling Stones or whoever. It's very, very tough to get to the stage, and only by invite. Whereas in Australia, I agree with Lou 100%. These players will be more likely like Del Piero was. He was very available to the community, the coaching clinics and all that sort of thing, because they know that Australia is a developing country. So I think we're very fortunate, one, with what Paul was saying, and also very fortunate in Australia. I think that they will get close and they will sort of like be made available to do autographs and all that sort of thing. But in Italy, it's an absolute frenzy. It's very tough to get to the players.
And Heather, I guess for the women, it's a totally different. We can get up close and personal to some of the ladies, particularly the Matildas. They relish being swamped by the fans. Is that true?
Yeah, for sure. We obviously saw it throughout the Women's World Cup, and I think that's the reason why Australia and globally they're a really big brand, is because they're humble. They've transitioned from being semi-professional players to now professional players, and we've got superstars in our own right. We've got Caitlin Ford coming over for Arsenal, Steph Catley, Sam Kerr for Chelsea, one of the best players in the world. So, I think that the connection between the professional players and the fans are really important. But I'm sure Totti out here in Australia is a dream come true. But to be honest, Lou bringing Del Piero out here, I saw him a couple of months ago, and he still says to this day it's one of the most memorable moments of his career. Him and his family and the kids, the couple of kids were there too, and they said the same thing. So not always just about football. It's about more than that as well. But yeah, look, I think in terms of the women's brand and the Matildas, that's why they're so loved, because they're so accessible.
Lou, when Del Piero and Shinji Ono came out here 10 years ago, I think personally the A-League reached a peak. And unfortunately, it's been on a downward spiral since. Why don't you and the FFA bring out big name stars? It worked 10 years ago. You look at some of the stands and stadiums today, they're empty.
Football is a global game. It's cyclical. Certain markets come high, drop off, others come in. So at the moment, or say 7 or 8 years ago, I spent a lot of time in China, and the Chinese league were throwing money around like confetti. And even at the time I thought, this doesn't seem sustainable. And as we've seen, that's dropped off. And a lot of foreign players were going to China purely because the money was just incredible. You've now got the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia that is leaving everyone else for dead for that sort of financial gain. And, people might say, players are greedy. No, players have got a very short career, and they've got to make the most of it. And we, as a modest country in a global football game, we fit in where we can fit in. And there are going to be windows, like we had with Alessandro, and we've had with Dwight Yorke in year one, and a lot of other foreign players that have come here. And at the moment, the window's very, very closed. I'm sure that in 2, 3, 4, 5 years, don't know when, but it'll definitely reopen. We're seeing that some of the foreigners that have gone to the KSA are now sort of terminating their contracts. They're not adjusting to the lifestyle there. I think you'll find that Australia will become an attractive place to come out and play football. And that's the same with teams that are touring. We found it very hard to attract teams to come out to Australia. And then about 8 or 9, 10 years ago, we started to land one, and then they have a great experience. They go back home, they talk about how welcoming, how safe, how accessible Australia is for the fans, the quality of the training pitches, the food, the security, and the word spreads. And that'll happen again with the players.
Well, let's ask the supporters here. Who would you like to see from your club come here and play on a full-time basis, or a part-time basis at least? Are there players, and do you think you'll see it in your lifetime as supporters of AC Milan and AS Roma? Anyone?
Luis Suarez would be nice.
Yeah.
Any other potential players, guys? Zlatan?
Are there any other issues? Are there any other issues as supporters that you have that you might want to address to the panel here? And even Angelo in Naples?
Camilo, our favourite.
All the questions. You're talking about like empty stands in the stadium and stuff. And is there any chance of like bringing back some of the old NSL teams through promotion and relegation, and maybe like that'll reignite some of the older fans of football here? It's like I remember as a kid going to my parents taking me to Marconi Stallion games, and like I'd love to see them in the top league again. And I'm sure if they were, like a lot of people would flock to the stadium.
Well, maybe that's a good question for Angelo. Angelo was heavily involved with Adelaide United. Angelo, promotion, relegation, is it viable in the A-League in this modern era?
Well, I think the first thing that's important is the long-term viability. I know there's a second-tier competition happening. 8 teams have been selected. But, I think the first thing is that having long-term viability, because, Marconi, Sydney Olympic or South Melbourne could come in to the A-League, and they've got a lot of fan base and membership base. I know Preston Macedonia. I'm very impressed with that team playing in the NPL, but they've got a very, very big following. I think the future has to be promotion relegation, the question is, can Australia afford it? Is there money coming in from the sponsors, from the commercial world? As Paul probably Nikolai could answer that better. But in Australia, we need more teams in the A-League, and we need promotion relegation because that's the world standard. I mean, you go to England, Italy, all over the world, there is promotion relegation. There is no sense of having a second-tier competition with no promotion relegation. I think that what you were saying before about bringing players to Australia is actually the key, because as Lou will tell you, Del Piero was an absolute extraordinary figure in Sydney and all over Australia. Everyone absolutely loved him. Just sad that he went over to play in MLS for another couple of years instead of staying in Australia. Of course, he wanted to. But I think this type of thing, having the X factor, bringing a player like I think Harry Michaels did with Alan Brazil, that stimulates the whole country, the general sports fans, the football fans. I think we need that. And going back to promotion relegation, there's no sense of having a second-tier competition without promotion relegation.
I know Lou Sticker doesn't agree with you, but I'll ask Paul Nicolau first. Is it good business to have an A-League with promotion and relegation?
Yes, but it needs to be successful. And we really need to have a football community backing these type of promotions. We saw with Del Piero, I mean, literally he sold all, the community bought his jumpers and paid for his visit to Sydney. And that proved to be a huge success. And I think the Women's World Cup that happened last year proved that if you've got a successful program and Australia's winning or any of the teams are winning, then business will get behind them and back them all the way. And I think government will do the same. And we're seeing what's happening over in Perth with the support of the Western Australian government, that people will get behind this important code and really ensure its success.
Lou, promotion relegation, is it doable?
I'm a traditionalist, so in every other part of the world, I totally agree with it. I watched Ipswich Town qualify for the EPL the other night. Fantastic. I don't even support them, but just a club with history that hadn't been there for 25 years, 23 years, whatever it was. Terry Butcher was a player there, so I'm close to Terry. And I loved watching the reaction on the faces of the fans. Okay, we had promotion and relegation in the old NSL. If you recall, we had the Northern Division, the Southern Division, and because our country is such a vast...
That was back in the 80s, I think.
That's right. Such a vast country, what will happen if you have just straight promotion relegation, I can assure you that after a period of time, you can end up with 6 teams from Sydney and 6 teams from Melbourne and exclude potentially a Perth or an Adelaide. I think the way forward, and I think no one disagrees that promotion and relegation will come in at some point. The question is when. I always equate this argument with building a house. Now, I'm not a builder, but I know there's a couple of construction gurus in the audience tonight, and they'll tell you when you build a 2-storey house, you've got to plan for it in advance. You've got to build the foundations so the second story is stable. At the moment, it wouldn't be offending the owners of the clubs and everyone else involved with the A-League. The A-League is struggling, and until those clubs come back into the black, I don't think, a failing scenario, adding more stress to it is not the way to go. We need to remotivate the owners. You talk about Alessandro Del Piero. The reason that Alessandro Del Piero made it to the A-League is because you had 2 incredible owners in David Traktovenko and Scott Barlow. And if you don't motivate the owners to invest in these clubs, that's your real problem. At the moment, we read the papers of the massive reduction in distributions to these clubs. So you've got owners that are just losing money hand over fist. Now, wealthy people don't become wealthy by losing money. There is a benefit to losing a little bit of money because you're involved, it gives you profile, but there is a cut-off point. And at the moment, the powers that be need to find a way to remotivate the owners. So all the big players that have come out to Australia over the journey is because you had successful business people involved with those clubs that were funding it out of their pockets. So we need to help the owners get excited again. And I think there are ways that can happen.
Lou, to talk about business, and Paul talk about business, is sustainability. So the first thing is sustainability. And to answer your question, in the near future, no, promotion and relegation won't be happening because of the club licences throughout the A-League. So in the best case scenario, yes, we'd love it, and traditionally that's what we want to see, but it's not going to happen in the near future, to answer your question.
Well, Luke Casserly is in our live studio audience, and Luke is a former Socceroo, a man who played for Marconi in the old NSL. I'm not sure, Luke, welcome first of all. I'm not sure if you were around when there was promotion relegation, probably not. But what are your thoughts on the panel's views?
Yeah, I'm really mixed on it. When I played in the NSL, I was post-promotion relegation, so it was a closed league at that time as well. But it did fluctuate from 14 to 16 teams, so I certainly think the top league can have more teams. You think about the growth in population and the growth in people playing football over the last 30 years, and we actually have less teams now. So I certainly think there's scope for that. Kind of along the lines of what everyone's saying, I think from a technical perspective, we have loads of talented players that need opportunities, coaches that need opportunities. So from a technical perspective, I'm a big fan of a second division. I think that the players and the coaches and that are out there, and they need those opportunities. But it's the $1 million question, like how can it survive commercially? When the top league is, I'm not directly involved these days, but from everything that you read and everything that you see, that the top league is struggling a bit commercially. So at the moment, I just don't see how it's viable.
All right, thanks for your contribution there, Luke. Heather, Luke spoke about, I mentioned the fact that the game has really spiralled since the days of Del Piero and Shinji Ono. That was 10 years ago. The women's game has gone the other way. And a lot of us cannot believe how much it has just blossomed in the last 2 years, as a matter of fact. When you were playing, did you ever think you'd see the likes of our Matildas filling stadiums each time they play like they are right now?
No, absolutely not. And I think that's a combination of hosting a Women's World Cup, but a combination of the success that the Matildas have had both on and off the field. But look, I think football in Australia is flourishing. You've got both the Socceroos and the Matildas brand at its peak. In terms of the sustainability of Football Australia, it's never been better in terms of commercially, in terms of the amount of money and sustainability that we're looking at. But the key thing is the leagues, and that's where we all need to come together personally. And I know we're speaking a little bit about the women's game, and yeah, of course I'm proud of the Matildas, I'm proud of where it's going. Obviously the A-League W possibly needs to be better, but the investment needs to come, not just from the owners, but commercially as well, and that's where I say commercially, from a business point of view. But at the same time, sustainability is really key, and I'm really proud of where football is in Australia from a holistic point of view. However, I think the more people like the crowd here, like shows like this, if we can start to come together and all start rowing in the same direction, can you imagine how powerful football in this country could be?
Absolutely. Paul, the women's game, how has it taken off? I mean, whenever I see a crowd following the Matildas or any women's game, it attracts a different market. There are mums there with their daughters. You don't necessarily see that whenever you go to a men's match, an A-League match, but it's tapped into a new market. That must be good business.
Oh, it is great. The euphoria that it created was unbelievable. And you saw the crowds turn up to the games. You saw the sale of merchandise. You saw the people going into pubs and clubs and cafes and restaurants watching the game. That whole atmosphere that was created as a result of the success of the Matildas really created euphoria in the business community. It was unbelievable. Even with government, you had the federal government, the state government, even local government wanted to get behind the Matildas because they saw that they've really untapped this massive market that's out there.
Apart from Canberra United, most of the women's A-League teams are collaborated with the men's teams. Now, off air I spoke with Lou. He believes that it's not good business to have the two together. If you look at the MLS in America, the men's teams don't necessarily have a women's equivalent attached to it. They have different franchises for their competition. Do you believe it's good to have the women's attached to the men and the men attached to the women?
I do. We're a small market. We've only got 27 million people in this country. So we've got limited resources, limited corporate resources. And so therefore I think it's important that both the male and females are joined together, because you're going to create that enthusiasm, that drive, that passion, the commitment which is really needed. And when you've got a small market like we have here in Australia, I think it makes common sense to put them both together to ensure their success over the time.
Let's bring Angelo back in. Angelo, you've heard the comments from Lou, Heather and Paul. Is it very important to continue bringing big name players, not necessarily only from Italy? We saw Liverpool a few years ago fill the stadiums of Australia. How important is it to have these big name players continue to come to Australia, and how much of a role will these big name players play in terms of developing our football, our league in this country?
Definitely. I think that's the way to go, because they definitely stimulate our fans. And we all know what the Matildas did. It's almost like a Netflix movie. You know, I think that everything went right. And it's just a shame that our marketing department didn't really tap into the audience or the fan base, you know, because that's really the sample of going forward. The Matildas, as Heather said, the Matildas and the Socceroos are the biggest brands in the country. And it's just a shame that we haven't taken the opportunity to tap into those fan base while they were there, because everybody was following the Matildas. It was just massive, massive. But there is so much to do with that. In terms of marketing, that's what we need to do. We need to tap into that audience, because that audience loves us. We found out that the general public, even the AFL fans were watching the Matildas. Everybody loved the Matildas. So you've got to take the opportunity and really maximise the opportunity while you have the fans there. I think that there's two things we need to do with the A-League to bring it back to where it was when we first started with 8 teams with Frank Lowy, is to bring some of those players over to Australia, just like Harry Michaels did with Alan Brazil. It was absolutely a huge success. Del Piero and so on, Dwight York. I think we need to do that all over again. It's not rocket science. We've done it before. We need to do it again. And also, I like what Heather was saying before about uniting the football community, the football fraternity. If we unite as a football, we'll be a massive force in Australia, because, as Paul said, we only got 27 million people, and it's no good going ahead or going forward in a fragmented way. We need to be united. If we are united, we'll be an absolute massive force in Australia with sport.
Well, I'll do a straw poll with the live studio audience. Obviously, I would imagine that most of you are heading over to Perth to watch the big game between Roma and Milan. Am I right? Yes! All right. Well, the question I posed to Angelo was, how much of an impact would teams like yours and others, Liverpool in recent times and many others, Rangers, Celtic and the likes, many other teams have come to Australia over the decades. But the question I'm asking myself is, how much of an impact do these teams play in our league? So I'll do a straw poll. How many of you watch matches live, on location, in our stadiums in terms of the A-League? Put your hand up. That's pretty good. That's probably about 80%. All right, then how many of you don't care about the A-League? All right, I'll ask. Well, why don't you go to the A-League matches? Samantha, microphone.
Why don't I go to A-League matches?
Yeah.
Because I just prefer watching the quality that's like on Italian football.
Do you not think the quality is great in Australia?
Well, I don't watch it, so I don't know too much.
Well, you should, because the quality is definitely up there.
Well, do you follow the Socceroos?
Yeah, of course.
You're Aussie born?
Yes.
There you go. Lou?
I think there's a bigger picture here. I think if you look at all our domestic leagues, the A-League isn't tracking as bad as what some would make it out to be. We're comparing a lot to the AFL, so I'm a Melburnian, and the AFL completely dominates the scene there. But I had one of those, the light bulb came up moment. I was in Qatar a couple of years ago, and I'm looking at the 10,000 Aussie fans there, and I'm walking through them, and I could recognise one face, and I didn't recognise these people. And then it sort of, the penny dropped. If you take the AFL is the World Cup of that sport every single week. It is the best of that chosen sport. Every other league, rugby league, A-League, and so on and so forth, we're a very, very small population and we're saturated with sport. So we're competing. And what's happening as a country, and perhaps, again, maybe I'm too influenced by Melbourne, Melbourne's become an event city. We'll go and watch the Matildas because they're playing in a World Cup, but those crowds don't translate to the W League. We'll go and watch the Socceroos, but those crowds don't necessarily translate to the A League.
Why?
Because we're an events country, an events mentality. So, Melbourne, January, tennis, dominates the scene for the whole month. March, Formula One Grand Prix. October, MotoGP. November, the horse racing carnival. Okay? So what happens is people, we remember that the working class have got X amount of dollars and they've got to decide what do they do. And we all know that the economy isn't that good at the moment. We know that people's costs of living are going through the roof. So there is a limited, a finite disposable income. So people choose where they spend their money. So a lot of that money goes to events. So we're competing against that backdrop, and that's why at times, even though I can find faults, but we are probably very brutal on the A-League because we're comparing them to the AFL. And if you take the AFL out and compare the A-League to every other domestic league, every other domestic sport, they're not tracking as bad as what we think.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you there, Lou. We have got a question in the live studio audience. Samantha?
Yeah, we've got a few good questions. It's actually from me. Camillo, you formed this fan group. Tell me, how did that come about, the Roma fan group here in Australia?
So, fan clubs for Italian teams, they're a common thing amongst Italian culture, so to speak. There's many Italian fan clubs for different clubs around the world, and we made our club started in 2011 from a simple online group.
Yep.
And it evolved since then. In 2015, we got officially recognised by a fan club organisation in Italy.
And how many people do you have now?
We have it changes every game. Depends on what game we're watching together. But there's 5-6 core members.
Yep.
And we started watching. We have a location in Sussex Street, and so that's it.
Yeah, that's great. And Dom, can you tell me more about what a game day looks like? Obviously in Australia, you're hardcore fans. You're getting up at 2 a.m. to watch. What does that look like? And you have a location now. So what's going on there? Any drinks at 2 a.m. or what's going on?
Well, you say getting up. It usually involves staying up the entire night, and then we'll go to Kaz Cafe, Kaz Tower in Sussex Street.
Not sleeping?
No, can't sleep. Too excited. And then we've been getting bigger crowds, as we've been saying, and so have coffee, have some croissants and whatever, and watch the games.
It's fantastic. We love to see it. And, AC Milan also have a group. Daniel, you're the president. Tell me, how did you form that and how did that all come about?
Well, we founded the club in 2010, and the reason being is we wanted a place to collectively come together as like-minded people and to leave our lounge rooms and watch games together at 2 a.m.
Yep.
Plus my wife goes for Juventus, so I have to get out of the house somehow.
You have to sneak out.
And I think that was important to continue the Italian culture and our footballing culture here in Australia, and to have a place to collectively go and watch football.
You spoke about Marconi back in the day. Have you ever gone to a game there? You watching it there?
Of course, I was in the stable as a junior. I loved Marconi. I was there as a kid, and now I follow the Wanderers as well. So I think, for me, football is something I enjoy, and it's an escape from reality. That's something that I enjoy doing at
I
all
love
levels.
that. It's fantastic. And Marco and Gianluca, for you, football is family, right? So, you're not actually from Milan. So how did that come about? How did you start supporting them?
I fell in love with Franco Baresi, and then it translated to Paolo Maldini.
Maldini's, yes.
Yeah, so it was in my blood then, and it's never gone out.
And you and your son watch together. Is that something that, it's family? When you get up together with dad at 2 a.m., it's something that you always know you're going to do together? Is that what it is?
Yeah, I feel like it's something I look forward to. Brings everyone together and it's just exciting. So weekly, whether it's 4:45 in the morning, 2 a.m., We're there, we're ready.
Every game?
Yeah, every game.
Not missing one?
Can't miss one.
I love it. Love the commitment. Morris Licata is someone that I've known for years. We spoke about Francesco Totti before. He obviously came to Marconi recently. How was that experience, and how good was it for all the kids to get to see Totti and to have him there?
Yeah, it was a fantastic experience, and it was over 300 kids, and there was over 1,000 supporters. And Francesco Totti was a true gentleman. He signed autographs, photos, and also he cut the ribbon of the new 2 soccer fields at the back of the Marconi. And people were just getting excited. There was adults were crying to meet Francesco Totti.
Be their goat.
Yeah, so he's the king of Roma.
Yeah.
And he was just a legend.
So good to see, and you know, there's definitely an appetite for football here in Australia.
Yeah, absolutely. That's Samantha Yerman talking to our live studio audience. You are watching On The Ball Live. This is On The Ball Live 2024 edition, and it's great to have you wherever you're watching right across the world. Well, let's move on a little bit now, and we're looking forward to the Paris Olympics. They're only 78 days away. And some of you might be saying, well, it won't be so good for the Olyroos because they're not there. It's hard to believe they won't be there. It's a shame they won't be there. And we'll talk about that another time, but not to score a goal in the qualifiers and get beaten by Indonesia. With all due respect to the Indonesians, they've never beaten an Australian team before. Let's just talk to Tracy Holmes. It's a pleasure to have Tracy here. Tracy, how important is it to have the Matildas represent us at the Olympic Games? An organisation, by the way, congratulations to you for receiving the medal for IOC.
Women in Sport Award. Yeah,
congratulations.
Thanks for that. Oh, thank you.
So,
First of all, I want to say congratulations to all of you for doing this and everyone that's here, because you really are hardcore, and this is the world game. And so I'm very much an outsider, but I do...
Well, I worked with you back in 1998.
Yeah, we did. 98, France 98. We had some good times there. But the Olympics, you know, it's a different ball game again. But the Matildas are there, and I think one of the things that Heather was saying, you know, this is the team of the moment. This is the team that everybody in Australia follows. And so it's great to see in such a short amount of time from the World Cup to Paris that they're still going to be in the limelight. And now what is needed is for the Matildas to break through, you know. We've seen fourth and fourth again. Let's see them break through into the medals, and that is going to keep that trajectory going. But you mentioned before, Mike, about watching mums and little girls. You know, the crowd is very different. I've got to say, following the World Cup around and covering it for the ABC when I did, the crowd is everybody. There were old men with old man friends. There were middle-aged men with their sons. There were mums with daughters. It was everybody. And let's not forget, it wasn't just for the Matildas. It was for the celebration of the World Cup, which Lou was talking about. It's an event. And every single game was packed. The atmosphere was fantastic, because that's what a world game does. So the Olympics will be different, but what we need to see from the Matildas now is getting to that next stage and actually coming home with some of the silverware.
do you have thoughts on that, Heather?
Yeah, I do. I think you're absolutely right, Tracy. And actually, the Matildas haven't won any silverware to date. The last time any Matildas won anything was in 2010, and that's when I was playing, and that was the Asian Cup, and that was the first silverware for Football Australia. But it's our time now. Yeah.
Well, is it possible? What do they have to do, the Matildas, to break through and get that medal?
We have got such an incredible squad, and the squad is in form. The players are playing all around the world at the moment. In terms of our core players, they're in their peak at the moment. Yes, we're not going to have Sam Kerr, but we've got so many other fantastic players, Mary Fowler, Caitlin Ford in form, Claire Hunt, defender at the back. So I think, personally, I think this is our time, and it's just a matter of what colour medal we come home with. And for the girls, I know they're chomping at the bit to win any kind of silverware, and to do it in Olympic Games, especially in Paris, would be unbelievable, and the trajectory for sure with the Matildas brand, and just the brand generally in football in Australia. But our girls are superstars all around the world, and so proud to see that. So yeah, I would love to see a medal, that's for sure.
Have the time kickoffs been scheduled for the Matildas matches, Tracy? Do you know, in Paris?
Not
Not yet, but we might be watching them at 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, given the time differences. Let's move on now, and the A-League has been around since 2005. We had 8 teams back then. In 2024, in 6 months' time, when the new season starts, the next season starts, we will have another team. The team is based in New Zealand, the second team to come from the land of the long white cloud. The name of the team is Auckland FC. And I've got the head of football with us, join us all the way from New Zealand across the Tasman. It's Terry McFlynn. Round of applause. Terry, good evening to you. Thanks so much for joining us on The Ball Live. Must be exciting times for you, the head of Auckland FC. At last, we'll have a derby match when Auckland takes on Wellington in the A-League next season in New Zealand.
Yeah, it is. Look, it's a very exciting time for football in New Zealand. Obviously, the club was accepted into the A-League back in November, and there's been a lot of work put in between then and now to get us to where we are today. There's a lot of excitement and buzz around the city. I think it's 162 days until our first game in the league, 56 days until the first day of pre-season training with the team. So there's still a lot of work to do, but we're really excited and looking forward to the season ahead.
Yeah, what sort of players are you recruiting?
Look, we want to have a real New Zealand based team. We want to get the whole city behind us and build a club where, I've been listening in attentively to what everyone's been saying earlier about filling up the stands and having supporters in the stadiums. And, as a former player myself, and Heather's the same, as a player, you want supporters in the stadiums. You want a full stadium, get behind you. So that's what we're trying to do. We want to really connect with the community here in New Zealand. It's been a long time since it's been a professional club here in Auckland. So we'll be a real New Zealand flavour to our team. We'll have a few Australian players and obviously the 5 visa players as well, which Lou and Angelo spoke about earlier. I was fortunate enough to play with a lot of the players that they spoke about before. So as we've seen in the past, the visa players can make a real difference in the A-League.
Terry, New Zealand teams have come and gone over the history of the A-League. What makes you so confident that this team will survive and be triumphant?
Yeah, look, having been in the city now for a few months, there's real buzz around the city. The football community here has been crying out for a professional team since the New Zealand Knights folded. Our owner, Bill Foley, is a very successful businessman. He's got multiple sports entities across the world, a club in the Premier League, Scottish Premier League, League One in France. He's got an ice hockey team in Las Vegas. So he knows what professional sport is about. He knows what it takes to be successful in life, in business and sport. So, we'll be successful.
Paul, do you think it's a good idea?
Great idea. Great idea. Oh, well, reason being is because we're bringing New Zealand and Australia together. We've been loyal supporters forever and a day. New Zealand is a great supporter of Australia and vice versa. And having a team from Auckland being in the league will be great for the whole football fraternity. Well,
we were talking about the population of Australia being quite small compared to other leagues. New Zealand's got a smaller population than Australia, tiny when you compare. To have 2 teams is a good business. And again, I'll point to the fact that 2 teams from New Zealand have collapsed over the years.
Well, you've got to keep doing it because it's a great sport. Success breeds success. And if we can make sure it works here and it works in New Zealand, then I think everyone's going to win from that perspective.
Lou?
I think the key is having real football IP. So Terry McFlynn joined the A-League in 2005. I'll never forget the first time I saw Terry come out to trial from Northern Ireland, came out to trial with Sydney FC. And I looked at Terry and, let me put it this way, I look fitter than what he did at the time, right? And Pierre Litbarski saw, he came into training, straight after training and said, this boy's a footballer, he's a real footballer, and signed him. And Terry went on to have a glorious career in the A-League and all with Sydney FC. So you've got someone like Terry, and when you've got an owner like Bill Foley, you're on the right path. Unfortunately, a lot of the people that have been involved in our game over a long time don't necessarily have the passion in the blood. And I know that business acumen is business acumen, but you've got to have a real passion and love for what you do. And Auckland's off to a flyer having Terry and the owner. So I think they're going to be they're going to be great for the league.
Well, Terry, there's a real Sydney FC connection with Auckland FC. You're the head of football. You've got Steve Corica as your inaugural coach. And apart from that, there's a little bit of blue in your kit, in your jersey, blue and black. And some of the supporters here from AS Roma and AC Milan were asking me, what's going on with Auckland FC? They look like Inter Milan.
Yeah, look, when we put the club together, the football department, the owner gave us a real clear strategy in what he wanted to look the football department to look like. As a head coach, he wanted a winner, someone who had been around the A-League for a while, someone who knows the players, knows the salary cap intricacies, and someone who's won it. So we were very fortunate that Steve was available at the time. He's the most successful coach in A-League history, very loyal person. I was fortunate to work with him for a long period of time. So there's that synergy between Steve and myself. In terms of the colours, Auckland's colours are blue and white. Obviously, black is synonymous with sport in New Zealand. So we wanted to combine the two, the blue of Auckland and the black of New Zealand. So we'll be a team for all of New Zealand, not just Auckland. We want to represent Auckland with pride, week in, week out on the pitch. Like I said, embed ourselves in the community, but be a club for all of New Zealand as well.
Well, Terry, I reckon you've got a big job ahead. I mean, the team was established, in November of 2023. What's that, 6 months ago? And you're playing your first match in about 5 months' time. That's a big mountain to climb, I think, in terms of preparation. Am I right?
It is, but like I alluded to earlier, Mike, we're very fortunate in the resources that we've got within the multi-club structure. The guys at Bournemouth have been fantastic with us in terms of resources, access to scouting reports, recruitment, high performance software technology. So there's a real collective approach right across the multi-club ownership to get this club right. And I think, as Lou said earlier, we're not just thinking about the A-League, we're looking at this as a global project. We want to be a football club that's as big as anything that's been in the A-League and bigger. If we're serious about taking the A-League to another level, then we have to think global. I think James Johnson mentioned it previously, think global and act local. And for us, we've very fortunate position that we've got a multi-club ownership. We've got an owner who owns a club in the Premier League, the best club in the world. They're going to finish 10th or even higher in the Premier League this season. So he knows what success looks like, and we want to bring that to the A-League. And again, we want to bring an exciting brand of football to Auckland, to the New Zealand people, and fill up the stadiums.
Paul, I know there's an undercurrent of popularity in terms of the World Game in New Zealand. We see it whenever the All Whites play very important qualifiers. We've seen that in the past. They fill stadiums. Westpac, I think the capacity there is about 50,000. It's wall-to-wall supporters following the national team. I think the derby situation between the Wellington Phoenix and the Auckland FC will be a boon in terms of us watching from this side of the Tasman. Do you agree?
Yeah, it's great rivalry. It's always been rivalry, whether it's in rugby or whether it's in rugby league. Or whether it's in football. The fact is Australians like playing New Zealand, New Zealand likes playing Australia, and it's a great thing for trade, it's great for business, it's great for the euphoria in the community to get behind. And a lot of people from New Zealand live in Australia now, so there's backing there, and there's a lot of Australians who are over in New Zealand, and I think that's really important. It also shows the fact that we've got business leaders who are willing to back the game. I mean, you've got how many of these wealthy business leaders who are willing to back each of these clubs in the A-League, which is a fantastic thing, and it's great product.
I'll ask this question, Terry, on behalf of Heather. Will there be a women's team linked to the Auckland FC?
Yep, our A-League women's team will join the competition in 2025. We'll also have an academy team that will join in 2025 as well. So we're working with New Zealand football at the minute in regards to what that timeline looks like for our girls team, whether we'll join the NRF local competition here first and then join the A-League women's in September, October 2025, or we'll join the A-League women's first and then join the NRF after that. So we're having discussions in a minute with some players, with some coaches, but certainly the A-League women's team is a high priority for us as well.
Great news, Tez. That's wonderful news. That's what I like to hear. More teams, and the one question that we often get asked is, in particular about the Wellington team, is why would Australia want to strengthen New Zealand when they're rivals? And I remember the question coming up in the boardroom, and it's something that I think is really important for the league. It's not about us versus New Zealand. It's more about strengthening the league, and that's why I'm super excited to see, and some of the quality players that play abroad in New Zealand, most of the New Zealand national team plays abroad. It's a wonderful opportunity for them to come back home and be able to apply their trade. But not only that, is to strengthen the A-League W as it's going to strengthen the men's league as well. So great news, and look out the rivalry between Sydney FC and Auckland FC.
Yeah, definitely, Heather. Look, we've been around, like I said, for the last few months here, and we've gone out and watched a lot of games, boys, girls, kids, men's, women's. There's a lot of talent here, and I think the opportunity for, as you said, a lot of the girls are playing abroad purely because there was no opportunity here to be involved in a professional environment outside of Wellington. So for us to be able to provide a pathway and an opportunity for local girls here is something that we're really serious about. And obviously at Bournemouth, we've got a girls team as well. So there's a genuine pathway now for New Zealand girls into our club and then on into Europe as well.
Terry, we've got a live studio audience here. They're lovers of the Italian game. But Sam, you might have somebody that may ask a pertinent question.
Hi Terry, good to see you. I've got Christine in the audience. She's got a Vine Time jersey on. Apparently she left a Terry McFlynn jersey at home, so don't worry about that.
You know Christine.
But she's got a question for you.
Hi Terry, it's Christine here. I know you've just started in your new role, and congratulations on that, by the way. But all Sydney FC fans really want to know is, will you consider coming back to your true home of the real Sky Blues?
Look, I really enjoyed my time at Sydney FC, as everyone knows. I spent a lot of long time there. Moved to Perth for family reasons, and the club went on from strength to strength after that. They're still doing very well. This is a project that really excited me to come to New Zealand and be part of something. As Lou said before, the owner we've got. At 78 years of age, to have the ambition and the drive and the passion for football and the passion to be successful, it was something that I wanted to be part of. I was out of the game for a little bit, and this was something that drew me back in, just to be in that environment again where success is what you're driven to every morning when you get up and get out of bed, and helping players achieve their dreams. I was a kid at one point a long time ago with a dream to become a player. And if I can help some of these young kids here in New Zealand, both boys and girls, achieve what they want to achieve in professional football, fill up the stadiums, get a successful team, help the A-League, then that's what we're all about.
Yeah, good on you, Terry. We thank you so much for your contribution here on the On the Ball program. Good luck. It's how many days did you say before pre-season?
56.
And how many before kick-off, the first game?
162.
He's counting, isn't he? He's counting. Hey, have a good night. Thank you so much. We look forward to you and the Auckland FC team in black and blue, ladies and gentlemen. Fancy creating a jersey that looks like AC Milan, right? Right, okay. You're watching On the Ball. We're live right across Australia, and if you are watching in other parts of the world, we'd love to hear from you. Well, the big game, May 31, is between AS Roma and AC Milan. We've got our supporters here. How about some noise? Who's going to win? Dumb question, I know. How important is it to have more teams, not just Italian teams, but teams from Europe and other parts of the world here? I'll ask you, Heather, whenever the Matildas play, it doesn't matter what nation they're up against. Sure, they're here, the supporters are here to watch the ladies go around, but the opposition makes a huge difference as well. But despite that, the Matildas still seem to pack in a capacity stadium. It's unbelievable. How do they do it?
Well, it's taken a while, because I remember the biggest stadium in 1999 when I was a young 16-year-old was 10,000, and that was the biggest crowd we ever had. So to see the Matildas, I think it's 12 home games in a row that we've filled stadiums, which is unbelievable. But again, it hasn't been an easy feat. It's been a long time in the making. And while everyone's seeing the success, which is the pinnacle, I think it comes down to the efforts. And you look at the past people that have contributed to that, and I think they need to be congratulated because it has been a slog. But in saying that, seeing the players perform their trade and be the world's best is incredible. I need to mention Arsenal women coming out on the 24th of May in Melbourne. Now that's another dream come true. The moment I mentioned that last night at dinner, when I come home from overseas to my daughter, she was jumping out of her skin. Can I go and see Kyra Cooney-Cross? Can I go and see Steph Catley playing their Arsenal jersey? So I just think it's incredible. And look, Lou, you trailblazed and pioneered within this space. I remember one of the best moments of my life was the LA Galaxy game meeting David Beckham, and that was you that brought the team out. So for young boys and girls and mums and dads being able to see Roma and AC Milan, this is you, and this is what great people like yourself can do. And for fans, the most important thing, it's you guys are the most important thing. So if we can bring that passion to Australia, and that's what you're doing, Lou. So the next couple of weeks are really important in Australian football.
Lou, after AC Milan and Roma, what do you have in your head in terms of the future of bringing teams out?
Well, it's a good question because we cast a pretty wide net. So we've been, over the last 10, 11 years, I've had fingerprints on a number of games that involve predominantly EPL clubs. I brought Celtic out a couple of times, brought Juventus out in 2014, that's my club. So I don't know what I'm doing with Milan and Roma. We've internally with our partners, Ticketmaster, Venues Live, we're always looking for new projects. We looked at bringing a couple of big Athens clubs. Olympiacos is in the semi-final of the Conference League. It's unbelievable, and they've got massive support here. So there's Greek clubs, there's a lot of different nationalities. It doesn't have to be EPL, it doesn't have to be Serie A. Football is a global game, so it's a question of getting the right fit, and timing has a lot to do with that.
Well, as the music chimes, I think it's the Milan theme song, am I right, boys and girls? Lift it up. Well, we've got Angelo Picca back online from Naples. Angelo, I would assume that you've been listening in, tuning in. What are your thoughts on tonight's program? Have you got any comments to make?
Can't hear you, Angelo.
Has done a tremendous job, and we need this type of show, like Heather was saying, to discuss all the hot issues and bring to the forum all the important things about football. But before I say the next thing, I was hoping that Lou Sticker would mention Napoli, SS Napoli. It's called, Lou. I thought he might bring Napoli to Australia.
Well,
because obviously they had a very successful year last year.
Is Napoli possible?
Yeah.
We've spoken to a lot of clubs, and Napoli is one of them. Over the years, I think I've met pretty much anyone in football. But look, a lot of the times it's not just the money. Timing is a key element, and a lot of the leagues have to do pre-qualifiers for the like say the Greek clubs, for instance. They start their seasons very, very early because they've got to qualify for Champions League. So it's not easy to get clubs here, and it's getting actually harder. FIFA are taking on more clubs in their own FIFA World Club Championship, so it's not going to get easier. But I think this is a great opportunity to give the fans a taste of something different.
Well, we heard the music, the theme song from Milan. It's only fair to play the theme song from Roma. Come on, all together now. It's a long intro, I think. A bit like the national anthem, right?
Unico grande amore di tanta e tanta gente che fa sospirare. Roma, 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 lasciate cantare. Da sta voce nasce un coro, so 100.000 voci che hai fatto innamorare.
Hey, very good. How did that sound, Angelo?
Oh, that's absolutely tremendous. Fantastic. Well done to everybody that's organised these two fan bases, in Australia. I think, like back to what Lou was saying, these two games, AS Roma and AC Milan, with that great pedigree where they capture the imagination of the world fans of football, not just the Italian. Obviously with 4 club world championships, they've been 4 times world club champions, 7 times obviously Champions League winners, and of course they've produced 8 Ballon d'Or, which is the award given to the best player in the world, and started with Gianni Rivera, who is the flagship of Italian football. Then of course the Dutch dominated with Ruud Gullit and Marco van Basten won 3, then George Weah and the Ukrainian Andrei Shevchenko. And then, of course, it finished up with Ricardo Kaká, who was the last one to win it. But, these two teams, an absolute flagship of Italian football, and to bring them over to Perth, hopefully it'll be a sellout. I think tickets are selling pretty much pretty well. But if anyone wants to go, Ticketmaster obviously being tremendous with all their promotions. But to bring these two teams over to Australia, I think that will do a world of positive energy to Australia at a time when, of course, now the A-League are going through the finals. And the other thing I wanted to say was congratulations to Central Coast Mariners. We spoke about Auckland Kings, Auckland FC. I really think Central Coast have been a major development entity of the A-League, and a positive note. Of course, Adelaide United is getting good crowds, but Central Coast Mariners, they've actually increased their fan base, the membership base. They've won championships, and now in Asia, I think it's an absolute tremendous work done by the staff, the administration, the players, the coaches, everybody. Congratulations to them. Absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you so much, Angelo Pica from Naples. How about a round of applause for Angelo and his contribution? That just about wraps it up for our On the Ball program 2024 edition. I've got a few people I want to thank. The production team has been outstanding, particularly Theo Fotopoulos and also Elia. They have been Harry Michaels' right hand man and woman. That's what I'm trying to say. And of course, Harry Michaels is the man behind putting this together. His passion for this game, for a program like this, runs deep. He's brought so many people here tonight. He's allowed you, wherever you're watching, to watch On the Ball 2024 edition, and hopefully we will do this on a regular basis. Any last words from you?
Look, 3 cheers to Harry. And to Lou for really being, a person who's passionate about it, but also willing to take the risk. And I know that government and business will get behind the whole fraternity in football here in Australia when you've got people like Lou, when you've got people like, the Matildas and so on, and people like Harry too, and people like, they're in the room here. They're all passionate about it, which is fantastic.
Heather, I was involved in On the Ball last century, right? In another century, a long time ago. And we never spoke about the women's game. If On the Ball continues, and let's hope it does, we will split the coverage, the topics of the world game 50-50. And that's a result of where the women's game is right now.
On the Ball needs to happen after this show, absolutely, because it has given us a taste of all around the world, domestic football, global football, women's football, men's football, the world game that we absolutely love. So it needs to continue, and I can't wait to see On the Ball continue. And thank you to Harry Michaels for continuing in this space for so many years, and his passion.
And Lou, thank you for all you have done. You brought out some big name teams, big name players, and I think as fans of the game, as lovers of the game, the only opportunity we had in the past was to watch these big names on our TV screens. But you've brought them here live. Yeah. We can almost reach out and touch them if we're allowed.
The most important component in getting these games out they don't work without state government support. We've had that in Sydney with Destination New South Wales. In WA, there's a very, very passionate leadership. The Deputy Premier, Rita Safiotti, Tourism WA, Ticketmaster Australia as the promoter, Venues Live and Optus Stadium have come together. They're the ones that make it happen. I've got the great part of getting on a plane, going to talk football and then sneaking in a quick pasta or something. But no, they're the key people. So it's really important that they are the ones that get the recognition.
Thanks to Tracy Holmes. Tracy, good luck in Paris. You're doing such good work. I follow you on social media. And there's a lot of challenges, isn't there, in the Olympic movement, and you're doing a great job. Thanks for joining us here tonight. And also to Luke Casserly, former Socceroo, former Marconi legend, one of the best defenders I've ever seen. Luke Casserly, and thank you, the supporters of AC Milan and AS Roma. How about one more big cheer? Samantha, great job there controlling that crowd. They're a bit loud, aren't they?
I think it was the best audience we've had. Thanks, guys. Good job. I love the energy.
And for you at home, don't forget, get your tickets now. The big game, May 31, 7 p.m. local time in Perth kickoff. It's Milan versus Roma. The two big Italian teams from the Serie A, they're playing on our shores. You don't want to miss it. And if you do miss it because it's too far to travel, then you can watch it on Network 7 live and exclusive from 9 p.m. Eastern Time, straight after the AFL, so I'm told. Thanks for joining us. Thank you, everybody. On the Ball Live. We'll do it again soon.